Welcome to Bandit's Keep. I'm Daniel. In this video, we're going to talk about Waterborne Adventures, Adventures on the High Sea. And we're going to look at this from the angle of the hex crawl. So when we think about hex crawls, normally I think a lot of people think of overland travel. That's pretty much how it's presented. But if you want to run an adventure or a campaign that takes place in, let's say, a series of islands or a water world, Earthsea, something like that, you're going to want to have exploration over the water. And this can be done really simply, of course, just saying, well, it's 5 miles or 5 days journey or a month's journey to the next place. Let's roll to see if we encounter a sea monster. And just like all travel, we can just narrate it out. But if it's part of your campaign, if you want to make it part of your campaign, for me, it's fun to gamify these things. And I talked about this in the hex crawl video. I like to actually make maps and print them out and have the player characters actually move around on them. Well, the players physically move a piece on it and stuff like that. All I had with me when I sat down to do my notes to do this was original Dungeons & Dragons, and they've got stuff in there for waterborne combat. So let's take a look at that first. Then we're going to get into the hex crawl stuff. Okay, so in the back of the third book of original Dungeons & Dragons, there is naval combat. We basically get into the types of vessels that could be used. Obviously, it says you can make your own, what their speed is. What's interesting about this, too, is it gets into this idea of like the speed when they're going towards the wind or away from the wind, which is like reaching or quarter reaching or running or all this stuff. And, it's a little more specific, how quickly they can turn, how fast they can go on with oars, if they get tired when they're rowing, all this stuff, because this is really made for combat as I flip through this. We have some basic stuff about wind force. We have wind direction, turning. So if you want to run the game where you're going to do the combat on the ship, which we might want to do, this is great. There's lots of stuff here, missile fire, ramming, how to board ships, shearing off oars. All this stuff is here, which is fantastic. Again, awesome. But we want to talk about the exploration part of it. In this, I realized as I sat down and I made my own notes, which we're going to talk about in a second, I went back and looked at my standby, of course, when I got home, which was the expert book. And there's actually some more really cool stuff in here. So in the expert book, which of course would be the same, I guess, as OSE, I don't have that on my iPad, so I'm not sure if I'm sure it's the same information. It's probably just displayed differently. You've got similar stuff. You have your various ships, how many rowers it takes, how many hull points they have for combat, their armor class, and cargo, which is kind of interesting. It talks about how you do ship combat. And here we talk about the weather. And what's nice about this is it's not just which direction is the wind going and that kind of thing, but you've got a chart where you roll every day. So let's take a quick look at that. There is a basic weather thing here, but let's just look at their chart here, which is pretty nice. At the start of each day, we roll 2d6, be calmed, no movement except by oared, blah, 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 extreme light breeze all the way up to gale, right? Then we've got encounters at sea. We talk about visibility. You can see land from 24 miles away. Monsters can surprise ships, but ships really can't surprise monsters, and so on. And what I actually had to I was working on myself, they have here, which I might actually use this instead, is evasion. Because again, if you've been watching my Mapper series on my actual play channel, the solo game I'm running, a lot of times when you encounter stuff in the wilderness, you're going to want to not fight it, right? If you're out in the wilderness and you see a monster, you're in the sea and you see a sea dragon, you're not necessarily going to want to fight that thing. Why would you? It's probably going to trash your ship, and it's not carrying any coins in its pockets, right? You're not going to get anything out of it. So evasion is a huge part of this. Now, in the expert book, they use the speed of the ships. For me, I based it on OD&D, which is kind of the amount of people are in it, or the size of the ship is how I did it, and we'll talk about that. So if you've got OSE or Basic Expert, you have these rules and you can look at them. But I wanted to create something here, and I'll make this a document and make it available for people that don't have that or want to kind of craft their own. So let's get to that now. But, I keep saying but. Before we do that, let me quickly show you a map that I made. Okay, so I'm in HexKit here. I made this little map. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. Here's my campaign map that I want to start my campaign in. I built a small area. We have a large island in the center. That island is, let's say, the mainstay. Well, there should have been a city there. I think I closed that part of the... Anyways, there's a big city there. On a couple of the other islands, we have cities. Some of them are unexplored. We can also see that we've got kind of two major shades of blue here, right? We have the generic kind of lighter blue. I mean, it's not the same everywhere, but then we have this dark, dark blue. That's our deep ocean, which I'll talk about in a second. We also have some obstacles with some waves, over here at the bottom. And then we have some whirlpools up at the top, which you can add. The bottom comes off the screen. Maybe that's an island. Maybe it's a larger continent or something. Who knows, right? We can start in the center island and we can explore out. See what's there. See what civilizations there are. See what ancient ruins we can find in technology or magic, right? Or whatever, right? We want to explore. This is an exploration. So let's take a look at what I've whipped up as my overseas exploration rules. I just want to take a second to thank our sponsor for the video. Exter has sponsored another video for us. They make, well, lots of stuff, but particularly these card holders, which I really like. They are RFID blocking. This is the carbon fiber version, which is pretty nice. I was using the leather one before. I kind of switch it back and forth, if you will. It's got a little strap in the front for your cash. In the back here, we have a metal plate that you can put additional cards that will also be protected from RFID. I don't have that many cards, so I stick some receipts and stuff back there. I kind of like this strap. It's not, on the leather one, it was kind of like a stretchy strap, like a watch strap. This one's a little bit more rubber band-like, so I actually kind of like this strap a little bit better than that one. So there's different styles depending on what you like. They all have this ability to pop your cards out, which is super fun. And what I noticed was, because I live in New York City, I was walking around and, you know, a lot of times I'll use Apple Pay or my watch to pay for things because I don't want to bust my card out in a crowded place where somebody could like quickly take a picture of it or any of that kind of stuff. But with this, I can pop the card up, and I'm not going to show you because I'm on the internet. On the backside here is where the chip is. I can basically tap and I'm good to go. I never have to pull the whole card out. So that's another little added security, which is really great if you travel or if you're in crowded areas like I often am. Check them out. I will put a link down in the description to the sites. You can see the different varieties they've got. There's also a sale going on, 35% off if you follow the link and you type in my code, which is BENDIT. So check that out and let's get back to those adventures. Okay, we're back on my iPad now, and let's get down to the meat of it. So, Waterborne Adventures. Each day we roll for the weather and the wind speed. So, if we roll a d6, if we get 1 or less, because you'll see there's modifiers, there's rain or snow. So there's -2 on the next roll. If we get a 2, we're -1 on the next roll, it's fog. If we get a 3 or 4, it's the same as the day before, or sunny if this is the first time you're rolling, and you add 1 to your next roll. If it's a 5, same as day before, but next die roll is no modifier. And 6 is sunny, +1 on the next die roll. What that means is that if you roll and you get rain, you're likely to get rain again because you're -2 on the roll, or at least fog, right? So this kind of makes it so it's not like rainy, then sunny, then rainy, then sunny, which of course does happen, but you know, this keeps it a little bit more kind of even tempo. Now we have our wind speed. They roll a 1, double speed. 2 to 4, normal speed. This is the speed of the ship. 5, half speed. 6, dead in the water. So that's like you'd be calmed, right? So every day we're going to roll. We got our weather. We have basically the speed that we can move our ship. There's really no modifier unless you have magic or something, right? These are the effects of nature. They're always going to be that way. For navigation and hazards, which is my next part, we can have, there's a d6 for each one, and you can modify them, right? The DM could say, you know, roll 2d6 and take the best one, or you could say add +1 to it because you have a good navigator. These things can be modified. So, navigation. You roll a 1, you're lost. Now, I'm kind of taking a cue from Outdoor Survival. If you're lost, you move your full movement allowance in a random direction because you don't know where you are. You're just kind of sailing looking for something, to like a landmark or something. 2, you're off course. You must move your full movement allowance in a single direction, but the players can choose. Now, this is a little meta, and again, this is where the board gaming part comes in because they can see the map, right? So they might say, well, we're trying to get over here, but we got to move our full movement allowance, so let's just go this way, right? 3 to 5, normal sailing, you must move your full movement allowance as usual, but you can turn once. And if you roll a 6, favorable winds, you can move any number of hexes, so you can move less if you'd like, and you can turn as many times as you want. So that's a great roll to have when you're like in an island chain and you're trying to move around, right? Otherwise, you're going to like basically end up in the too close to the island and you'll basically have to stop that day. Because what happens is if you're moving, right, let's say you have 5 points of movement and you're only 2 points away from this island, if you're not going to crash into it, obviously you just stop, right? That's simple as that. I didn't put that roll in there, but I think that's pretty common sense, right? When we're out at sea, we're also going to roll every day for a hazard or a monster. This is going to be based on where you are in the world. So if you're near the shore, which is within 2 hexes of it, there is a roll of 1, there's a monster. A roll of 2, there's rough water, where you might have a sick crew. A roll of 3, you have a collision with a sandbar, which kind of slows you down, or a reef, which damages the ship. And if you roll 4 to 6, so basically most of the time, it's all good. You're sailing along. Open sea, you're more than 2 but less than 10 hexes away from shore. 1 or 2, monster. There's more monsters out in the open sea, right? 3 or 4, we've got rough water, again, possible of a 6 crew. And 5 or 6, you're good to go. So you got kind of an even chance that anything's going to happen out there. It's the open sea. Deep sea. These are the dark blue areas on my map that I showed you. 1 through 3, a monster. This is where the monsters dwell. 4 to 5, rough water. Again, you're in the deep sea. This is unpredictable. This is where only the bravest adventurers go. And 6, all good. So again, if you have a really good crew, you have some other modifiers, you might have a better chance of, avoiding some of these things. So as far as rough waters are concerned, what I have listed here is just do a constitution check. If you're running OD&D, there's a percentage chance of survival, basically. And if you lose enough crew to sickness, they can't work, it might affect your movement, right? Simple as that. For encounters at sea, surprise and evasion can be used. I think I agree with the expert book, though, that maybe the ship can't surprise monsters, but you can surprise other ships, obviously. Now, here's what I did. Because I'm using OD&D, and again, I might go back and use the expert one, I made this little chart. I basically have it set up based on the party size, because that's how evasion works in OD&D. Small ships or very fast ships are treated as a party size of 4 to 9, giving you, a roughly anywhere from like a 50 to a 30% of chance of evading. Large ships or very slow ships are a party of 10 to 24, which gives you somewhere around a 30% max of evading. I'm going off the top of my head here, so I might be wrong there. And if you have multiple ships, you're treated as a party size of 25 plus, which means you have a very small chance of evasion. So you got a big ship, a fleet, you've got a bunch of small warships kind of protecting a larger ship that's bringing supplies. Well, if there's an encounter, you're probably not going to be able to evade. You're probably going to have to fight at that point. That's the nature of it. So the other thing I've marked down here is I have my hexes based on 5 miles, based on the map I have. I have some speeds here for the various ships based on that. What I did here was I kind of did a little math based on the speed at the 1/1200 scale, which is what OD&D uses, and kind of worked out the number of hexes they can move. You could use miles from expert as well. Both of those work. So it's a pretty simple system that will allow you to do exploration. Now, again, when you encounter ships, you can immediately drop down to ship-to-ship combat if it comes to that. And of course, when you get to an island, you just break into your normal hex crawling. So this is effectively just a tool to use when you're moving around the world, when your world is mostly the water. Okay, so let's actually do a couple of rounds. Let's just see what happens here. A couple turns, I should say. Ending on each turn is a day. Let's say that we are in this big island in the middle here. I know it's probably hard to see my mouse, but we'll say you can see there's a bay there. We're going to leave from this bay, the tip of the bay, and our goal is to get to this island over here. We're going to leave from the tip of the bay, and our plan is to go basically southeast to the island with all the trees on it. That's right over here. I know it's hard to see my mouse. So it's not very far away. And let's say that we have a small galley, so our movement is 7. So it's really basically a day's journey. It should be pretty easy to get there, provided nothing weird happens. So number 1, we're going to roll for our weather. I roll a d6, and I got a 2. A 2 means that there's fog today. Ooh, that's less than ideal. So I don't have any actual effects on here, but this is pretty likely that you might use your DM fiat to say, hey, you know what? The fog, actually, I think I'll do that right now. I'm going to use my own fiat right this second and make a change. That -2 on the roll is the next roll on this chart and also the roll on navigation. I think that makes sense. So let's actually change that. Okay, so we're making a change here based on me trying this out. This is what happens when you write something down but you don't try it. So this is going to affect our roll, right? So I rolled fog. So we'll hold on to that for a second. And what we've got here now is we're going to roll for our wind speed to see how fast we can move today. That's not affected by the fog. 4. Again, 2 4s in a row. Normal speed. So now let's roll our navigation. We're going to move our normal speed, which is 7 hexes, but let's see where. I rolled a 2. -1. We are lost. So now I've got to roll a random direction. I'm going to start with 1 being the top of the hex, and we're going to go around clockwise. 1. Okay, so obviously that crashes us back into the thing. So what I'm going to say is we spend the day, we sail out, and somehow we get turned around, and we're basically just going to end up, we're like, land ho, and we're back where we started. We wasted a day out at sea doing nothing. But we're near shore. Let's see if we have anything happen. 2. Okay, there's rough water and we have a sick crew. Even if we don't move our normal movement, we're still probably, it's not really going to affect us, but we could play through that if we want. So now, day 2. Our employer is not very happy that we actually haven't left yet. Remember, it was fog the first day, so we're rolling a -1 on our next roll. I rolled a 5, which is same as day before, and the next roll has no modifiers. So it's fog, but there's no modifiers for the next roll, meaning the next roll on this table. Let's see what our speed is. 2, normal speed. Let's see if we get lost. There is a -1 still. 6, favorable winds. That's what we wanted, right? We're going to move our normal movement down here, and if I look at this, let's see. So again, my movement is 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It places me only 1 hex away, provided that we don't have any issues. So I'm going to roll for monster/hazard, and you roll it at the beginning. So basically we're going to take the advantage of being in the open water, or not the open water, the near shore. Okay, we have rough water, so that might slow us down. I'm not gonna roll Constitution for my entire ship, so I'm just gonna go high-low just to play this out quickly. If it's high, we're good to go. If it's low, I'm only gonna have moved 4 hexes. Okay, it's 4. So we moved our full movement. Enough of our guys stayed healthy that we got there. We're only 1 hex away. Let's see what happens this day. There's no modifier on our weather roll. We got a 5. 5 is same as day before, which means fog still, because remember, it was foggy before. Our speed is 3, which is normal. Do we get lost? 3, which becomes a 2. We're off course. Must move full movement in the direction that we choose. Well, we choose to go towards our goal, so we're going to make it there, assuming we don't run into a monster. We are near the shore. We roll a 3. Ooh, we have a collision with a sandbar. We only have half our movement because we collide with the sandbar, but we're only 2 hexes away and we have 7 hexes of movement. We make it. So it took us 2 days, basically 3 days rather, to get across because we had that one goof up the first day, and we're there. We made it there safe. Obviously, longer journeys can play out differently, but it can be a fun little mini game to move your characters around. Now, you don't necessarily need to have a map for this. If you want to play it theater of the mind, it'll work just as well. You just say it's this many days away, and then basically if they're lost, you just add extra days to it. So if you get lost, you add 2 days to it. If you get off course, you add 1 day to it, stuff like that, basically. So as usual, you probably have seen here that my general philosophy on playing the games is to look to see what's there. We don't necessarily need to build systems from scratch, even though I kind of did here, but just see what's already in the game. I already, even though I did build this from scratch, I based it off another game that I play, Outdoor Survival, which they tell you to play when you run OD&D. So I'm kind of using the same rules, and I'm just thinking about how it plays out, let's say, on the water, which creates a whole other set of situations. You could do a similar thing in space or in the air, right? You could do a space campaign where you're doing the same thing. These could be planets that you're traveling to. All you have to do is think about what could possibly be a hazard or something that will slow them down or throw them off course. Add those things to your list, and there you go. It's easy as that. Always give the players some kind of choice, though, so they're not just they're not just rolling a random die. Let them hire a meta navigator. Let them choose the direction they go in most cases if they don't roll terribly. Let them decide if they want to evade a monster versus having to fight it. That's what makes the game really fun, I think, at the table, because people get really involved in it. It's not just like, okay, well, we're traveling, so I'll just wait till the DM rolls a wandering monster and we'll fight it. It becomes, let's play this game together. I hope you liked that video, and if you did, please do hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I appreciate it. You'll find in the description below a link that will send you to this document, which I will print out as a PDF so you can use it for your games if you'd like, as well as the map. I'll give you the map too if you want to play around with it. Should be really fun. I'd love to know how people use it. Let me know what you guys do with these kind of things in the comments below. Do you have water adventures and pirate adventures and stuff? I would love to know, because it always seems like a fun thing to do, right? Now I feel like I need to do an open world over the sea for one of my campaigns. Let me add that to my list. Also in the description, you're going to find a link to my Discord server. Jump on over there and join the conversation. We're having a lot of fun talking about running games, designing games, just general RPG stuff. And finally, you'll find a link to my Patreon if you're interested in supporting the channel. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.